Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It depends with where you're watching us from. I welcome you to this session where I walk in the life of our confrere, our friend, our brother, a father, a priest from Spirit Congregation. This is Shamba Media. I welcome you to journey with me to the end of this journey as we look into the life of our brother here who is already in the studio. We want to hear his story. I take this opportunity, Father, to welcome you. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah. Morning, and good night, all. So this is a program I normally have where I walk into the lives of people, and always we hear their stories, their life experience, what they can tell as a word of inspiration, or a word of encouragement. And today I'm very happy to meet you. I know you're a spiritual priest, a student. I saw you growing, and we met in this life. And today I have this privilege to talk to you, a son from Leonard. Maybe you tell the viewers who you are, where you come from, and what you do. You just introduce yourself, Leonard.
All right. Yeah. I'm Father Mulei Mutua, a member of the congregation of the Spiritans. Currently working at St. Charles Lwanga Kameribu Parish. But previously, after ordination, I've been working in Malawi. And here I am.
So, as a priest, what defines you?
Service.
Service defines you.
Yes.
But every other person is serving somewhere.
Mine is uniquely service.
And that is why I wanted maybe you talk about the character or...
Basically, as I look at my journey and my vocation, I think what comes definitely over my life is service. Throughout my journey of schooling, formation, and as I look at the background towards my calling, I think I can definitely say that I can be defined by the word service. And I think that is what profiles my calling, that I'm called to serve, and I think I'm bound by service to people whom I'm sent to and whom I actually live with. And I feel comfortable serving people.
Okay. Maybe now we come to know Father Leonard or Father Leonard Mulei. People like calling you Leonard. So maybe you talk about your family background. I know you come from somewhere. Maybe
I'm the third son of the late Lucas Mutua and Esther Kamu. And we are 6, 5 men and 1 lady. And as I say, the third son, I'm the third born. Is a lucky number for me also, number 3. We originated from Ukambani, but all I knew is that we have lived all our life in Loitoktok, which is a Maasai land, and that's why mostly in the congregation and the people we have interacted with have identified me with the Maasai people, which I'm 100% comfortable with it, and identify myself actually with the Maasai people. But I came to learn that we were not Maasais, but we were meant to be Maasais actually. My grandfather is the one who relocated from Ukambani, partly to Tanzania. And then later, after the 1967 Ujamaa thing, they heard that children are being taken by the government. And since the concept was not clear, That's how they ran from Tanzania and landed at the border, Loitoktok, and found it to be a very fertile place where they happen to be good farmers and business people. So I come from a background of people who migrated from Ukambani to Tanzania, then to Mas Island, and farmers whom business people.
Okay. So I remember I met you in 2012. That was in August, if I'm not in May or December, if I'm not wrong.
In
2011 December in Kilimambogo. And of course I was so innocent, and I had not known nothing about the church and this life, and you introduced me to this life. You are the one who received me. You remained with us there for almost a week. Then we went back home. You also went home. And then now we come back in May. You had already gone to Tanzania. May you please give us your academic journey, where you came from and where you love to now.
Yeah, both primary schools that I attended were having a Catholic background. That is Internet Primary, which was started by the missionary, Mulei missionaries, long before I was in the picture. And it was a village school, so I started over there, where my father was the head teacher in the school. And then later, since my dad was an educator, we happened to look for a better school, as people call it, these academies. So I went to Kilimanjaro Junior Academy. When I was in primary 3, I stayed with my auntie, and shortly I got to boarding school in primary 4. And then up to primary 8, then I went back to my original primary school, where I also completed my primary education. And that defined actually my journey with the introduction to Catholicism very well. The school offered a catechesis class, so I was close to church. Our director, Mr. and Mrs. Gageka, were very staunch Catholics. I remember the lady used to go for morning masses every other time, and we boarders would attend Sunday masses without a failure. So she helped us grow in the Catholic faith. Of course, Christianity was in the family, so it was not a big deal. And I received communion when I was in primary school, though my parents were in and out of church. We went to this Pentecostal several times. Then when we were to go for high school, Dad also heard that there was a seminary that offered very nice secondary education. And my aunt used to work in the parish with Boma La Tumaini for those affected and infected with HIV. So she used to reside in the parish, and she knew about seminary, the junior seminary school. So when people are being asked to join, they talked with my dad, and that's how I joined the junior seminary. This actually even managed to help me get deeper into the Catholic faith, because the life of the junior seminary is equally like a major seminary, where prayers, masses, and everything to do with the life of a seminarian were very primary. But remember that my parents were not Catholics by then. So my dad took me to the interview, and at the gate the guard asked us, "Nyinyi ni Wakatoliki?" And my dad said, yeah, we were Catholic. And that's when we realized that those who were going to the seminary were supposed to be Catholics. And that's how my journey to be a real Catholic began, where I started remembering the few things I learned during my primary school. I remember I could not say the prayer, the creed, all of it together. So I started rehearsing on my head, because I knew those are the basics of things people would be asked as Catholics. The creed, the Our Father, Hail Mary. And I remember when we got to the office, the vocations director, I think it was Father Innocent, if not wrong. It was from Uganda, from the congregation of the Apostles of Jesus. They are the one who were running the junior seminary in Kiserian. So I joined. Lucky enough, I was received. Then I was admitted. And then I stayed in the seminary for 2 years. And I went up the ranks as usual in the sacristy, courtesy of now Father Kimeu. He's in the congregation of the Franciscans, Servants of Mary, Queen of Love. So I remember he became my friend, and he was so nice in the choir and in the sacristy. So I found myself also in the sacristy. And that journey also helped me to grow also closer to God. And you know, when you're in the sacristy, you're also a deep state, so you are closer to the priest. So I became so much conversant with whatever was happening in terms of service and all that. Mm-hmm. And I remember those who had not received a confirmation were registered into the catechism class, and we were received. I remember the teacher who became my godparent was Mutua. Yes, he was from Meru, and I know he's still somewhere. We are still friends on Facebook. So I still remember those moments. So that's how my journey of faith was growing as I was also studying. But something happened in 07 going 08. There was some problems that happened, and my performance was not very good as per the expectation of my dad. He called me an A student, and I was also always getting C's, C pluses, B. I was not getting to A. So he became a little bit disturbed and said, okay, he's not achieving what he wanted. So he changed me the school when I was in Form 2, and opted to take me to Kambani. And you know, Kambani is the cradle of education. The best schools and performance are in Kambani. And he had two schools in mind, that is Kaba High School. Okay, there was Mangu, there was Kaba, which was in Kambani, yes, and Mboni, and Makueni Boys, and Machakos School. So he didn't have any school in particular. So we rose up very early to go and look for a school. And being an educator, he knew several people in the system. So he called Mboni, and he got a space, and also got Kaba High School. So he began with Kaba to go and check whether I'm going to get a space in Form 3. But it didn't work out, and time was running. So I remember the day we went to the office for the interview, and I don't know whom he spoke to, and then I was called in. So when I got in, they told me that there is no space in Form 3. If I want to continue being a member of that school, then I should go back to Form 2. That's the only space I can get. And knowing my dad, an authoritarian teacher, then a suggestion is not a request or anything for discussion. It's actually a command. So it was either I accept school or we go back home. So I took the easy way. I'm an easy man. So I took the easy way and joined Form 2. So that's when I started also my journey in high school and completed my secondary education in Kaba. But Kaba also shaped my life in the church, because I had two options: to go back to my parents' faith, Protestant, we were then going to Winners Chapel, or to join what I had learned before. So, me as an exciting young man, I opted to go for YCS, which was the Catholic wing instead of the CU. And as usual, I went up the ranks.
So the catechist?
No. I went and before I finished Form 4, I was in the choir, in the dance group, and sometime I became the chair for YCS. And in between, I took several positions, liturgies of the group. So we grew through the ranks. So that also helped me to be in contact with the priest, because every time there was consultation about the group, the residing priest was actually the parish house was within the house, within the school. So it happened that any consultation, we were the ones to go and talk to Father, who was also the chaplain of the school. So it was easy for me to interact with priests here and there. But something that was peculiar, that became part of my journey now to priesthood, from academia to now spirituality, going to priesthood, was not actually the interaction per se to priest.
Because that was my next question. What inspired you to join priesthood, and in specific, spiritans?
Yes. Now, it's as if there are so many dots which we are connecting to each other. First, remember that my grandparents were staunch Catholics. And coming from the village, Loitoktok, a Jonet location, our church, St. Dominic, used to be very far. The roads were too bad, and the priests there were not very many. Of course, we had 2 priests to serve a very vast area. So for us to be in the cycle of getting masses for our grandmother at home, it will take 3 or 4 months. And I said, why don't I become a priest for my grandmother, so that she is able to receive masses as often as possible? And I said, then instead of saying people to go and do it, and why don't I become the priest to go and say masses for them? So that was the journey of me thinking, why don't I serve these people who don't have people to serve them? And that thing was in the back of the mind, and I did not know now who to approach. Lucky enough, through the YCS group, we were a few of us who thought of becoming priests. And for me, I took the bold step. I asked one of my friends, do you know actually where we can get somebody to assist us so that we become priests? So he said, no, let's go to the chaplain, and he's going to help us. And I remember it was a priest. I don't remember his name very well. Either Father Mukundi from the Archdiocese of Machakos. He was our chaplain. So we went. He explained to us broad and wide about missionary and diocesan. And he said he's going to connect us to any place that we wish. Remember, during the Form 4, the last exams, before the exit, there is a moment where people go home, look for attires which are casual, and then during the last exam, they will take off their uniform, band and boots and all that. It was the academic fire of our place. So when that thing would happen, people would go home the weekend before the completion of exam, go by, so that when they are leaving school, they leave as civilians. There is nothing against a school. So for me, during that time, before my last exam, I talked to one of my friends and said, now, I have this weekend. After this weekend, I'm going back to our village, and I'm not sure whether we're going to be in contact with such realities. Why don't you take me to those friends of yours, you said, that you know a priest? And that's how I happened to be brought to Kilimambogo. So this friend of mine, Vincent, knew Father McMahon, who happened now to be our postulants director. So he knew Father McMahon. So he brought us and said, let's go. So we went together. He was a class behind me. He was in Form 3, I was in Form 4. So we went, and on arrival at Kilimambogo, we found a group of young men and another person there who was a little bit elderly than the guys, unlocking the sewage system. And these people were removing, so they were workers in the postulancy. We arrived some minutes, like 30 minutes before lunch. So Father McMahon welcomed us, and then the guys introduced themselves. I didn't get it anyway. But we went to table now. It was lunchtime. Surprisingly, the guys who were unlocking the sewage were the postulants, and the elderly guy was the vocations director, Father John Kamangara.
Oh, John Kamangara, yes.
He was our vocations director, and he was the one who was pulling now the dirt. Yeah. Oh, I said, oh, this is quite interesting. So that's how I got now in touch. And Father McMahon said, after lunch, I go and have an encounter with Father John Kamangara. They also showed us the room because they said it's getting late, we will not be able to go back. So I went to see Father Kamangara. Father John was very welcoming. Of course, even the whole postulancy. And we talked far and wide. And he told me I should not be worried. Because remember, my case was, my parents are not Catholics. How am I going to get? So he told me, have you done your the steps, the initial steps, that is baptism? Yes. Confirmation, yes. Eucharist, yes. So those are the basic things that one requires to be admitted. But number two is for you to get a C+ and above. This is the advantage that he explained, that the seminary studies are like university studies. So the requirements should match the university entry. So I understood, and for me it wasn't a big deal because, a bright kid.
Who was not doing well.
No.
He said, yeah, okay.
That was the term of the parent, but I knew I was doing well.
Okay.
So getting a C was not a big deal for me, of course. So I got a C+, and I came, I presented them later, and actually he invited me for the come and see, and two come and see, December, and another one in May. So in the December one, we just came, enjoyed very nice food there. It was the group of Kirima and Mutungi, Wycliffe. Those are the ones who were ahead of us. So they did a very good job, and I think that was my journey now. After high school, that's how now I joined the Spiritans.
So you joined in 2011?
Yeah.
You finished 2012?
Yes.
Then you went to Tanzania?
Yes.
Then after 3 years, you left Tanzania in 2015, if I remember well. You went to Novitiate, that is in Makamba, Lushoto?
Yes, and we were the major group of 2016. The highest
19,
number.
The highest number. 19.
By then.
Yeah,
because there are groups which came to be 22.
Okay.
And so on.
So let's go back to Arusha, Tanzania. Now you met.
You have not talked about the postulants. You have just gone into the postulants.
Postulants, you already finished. I know you. Okay, whom did you meet in postulants?
In the postulancy, we were 5. So after the 2 groups, I don't remember the come and see groups, but I remember the people who we started with. First, it was Titus, and then Timothy, and I've put them together because always the saints is Titus and Timothy. And then there was Lawrence Mumani, who during our conversation he said that he even never came for the come and sees. So Mumani was there, Lawrence Mumani, and there was Bernard Chomba and myself. I put myself the last because I was also the youngest in the group. Yeah, so we were 5 in the group, and we lived a very nice life, of course, knowing each other. Now, I came also last in the group, the last day. Our formators, by then, we started with Father John Kamangara as the vocations director, but later he moved to the parish. So we were left with Father McMahon, and then Father Leonard joined us when he was a deacon. So that's how our apostolancy began. And it was joyful moments for us, though up and downs. But one thing that stood out for me, there were so many rocks in the compound. And part of the assignment was to make sure the rocks were in place. So I was in charge of hard labor. And I think that formed me very well, and I took it very, very positively. So that's how we managed to do our apostolancy, and then we moved on to Giro a year later. Yes. Yeah, so our journey has been together. So from apostolancy, one dropped Titus, and then we went to Giro, four of us: Bernard, Timothy, Lawrence, Romani, and myself. So we began in Giro, four of us. Yeah, and Giro was another story.
Okay, Giro was another story. So how many are you at the moment? Because you began 5, one dropped in the apostolancy. Giro,
one dropped, Bernard Chomba. We went for the, I think, before we got to second year. Okay. I think he dropped on the way. And but all of us now, 4 of us now are priests, as I know. Okay. Leonard is also a priest, a married priest. Very good, very interesting. Maybe you should call him in the studio. And
I will look for him now.
But the Spiritans, we remained 3. Yeah.
And you are a priest now.
Yeah.
Now, let me take you back to now, Giro. I want us to look at the chemistry between you, Fuvu, Father Florian, Fuvu, Kavishe, and the Polido, Patrick.
Yeah, on arrival, we went and got into a bigger group. Remember, we were only 5 in the apostolancy. So we went and joined a bigger group. SMS was quite a diverse culture for us. We had people from different walks, different congregations, and that's when we broadened our mind about different congregations. But for the Spiritans, I know there were 2 from Mauritius, and as you have asked, our story with Patrick Polido, who is a priest now in Mauritius, and Father Joseph Florian, who is a priest in Tanzania. Our journey began just like any other cluster group that people come together and then things start working out. I met Fuvu at the fish pond. And he was this hyper person who was so friendly, who is still very friendly. Yes. And for me, I was, on the contrary, a loner and mostly an introvert. I like keeping my space. And that's how I moved all my life. I've always, high school and all, apart from the official duties, where service means service, but I liked my space. Yeah. So I'm a man who can be silent, a monk. So as I was walking around, I saw this guy also playing and harvesting guavas all over. I don't know how he found his ways even. And that was the first day. It was in the evening. I don't know how he got himself into the guavas. So he called me, Mama baby. Yeah. He shared a guava. And we started there. Leonard from Kenya. Karibu sana Tanzania. Vipi mshikaji? So the stories began from there. So Joseph Florian was the first person. I started interacting from a friendly part of view. And then later on, we came to meet another guy called Polido. Patrick Polido was this other charming, very friendly guy, very exposed, among the three of us, he's the only one who came by plane. So, and he was well to do. So the friendship began, and we started now moving together. We happened to be in the same stream, so classes will assist each other and study and all that. But something unique happened is that we watched a movie. After interacting for quite some time, we watched a movie. It's an Indian movie, very famous. It's called The Three Idiots. And we really liked how these three idiots were able to live their life. And we happened now to say, why don't we become the three idiots? And that's where the three idiots came from. That's where it was born. Polido was a man of movies. I didn't have a computer by then. So mostly we watched together, Joseph had a computer. So mostly we watched a lot of movies, and the movie that stood out was The Three Idiots. That's how now The Three Idiots came. Now, Joseph was a comedian, natural, born comedian. For me, I'm a made comedian from Florian. But Florian was a comedian, and I liked his company because, he will just be there making us laugh and all that. So he helped me come out of my introvert shell. And that's when I knew I can entertain people. Okay, I used to do stand-up comedy alone. Something, or just stand in front of people, not talk, but act. I remember in high school I used to do some acrobatic with a friend of mine called Isika, who do slow motion. And people would come, the whole school would gather. And then after that, I would just run away and disappear. But Jose, they called him Fufu. You can ask him when you get him on the studio, why Fufu. But Father Joseph now helped me come out of my introvert shell. And that's how we became friends till date.
Okay, the three idiots now.
Yes, but also somebody else came in. Very nice friend. Yes, Dennis Leia came in. And we became a very nice group. So it grew from the three idiots until now we got Dennis, who also became a very nice friends, and in everything we used to do together. Now we came from three idiots to Makamanda. Now I know you don't know Makamanda.
No, I didn't know that. I only knew of the three.
Yeah, that one grew up later. And we have been now together, the four of us, since Njiro. We kept contact. Of course, the three of us, Dennis, Joseph, and myself, went to novitiate together, but Polido went elsewhere. But we kept contact after novitiate until today, and we still take care of each other. I can say this group has been very, very, very much together, and as a person, I can say that it has really helped us grow even in our vocation. Ups and downs, we used to go through hard time together. And whenever life was hard, they knew the secrets of my life. So whenever I was drooping down, they would come and pull me back. So we took care of each other's vocation during time of crisis. I remember I was the first to feel like living in Jiro. It was, I think, third year. I was feeling lost in places, both pressures from home and school and all that. So at one point I was stooping so low, and they came to my rescue. And also, as a group also, remember that we were now three in Kenyans. We also stood together. Apart from these social friends, I had also family. That is Timothy and Lawrence. So apart from the social life, we will call each other and help each other in our vocations. And I remember Timothy, being the eldest, he was my disciplinarian. When he knew that I'm going very, very, very he would call me like an elder, and he would bring me back. I remember he would even accompany me to some places, even unwilling, but because he cared, he would just accompany me. I remember one time we were caught by our able rector, Justy.
Tarimo.
Yes. Yeah, so he called me, and he called Timothy Mshenga. Now, Mshenga is a Swahili word for somebody who escorts the other one to go and bargain and A for the wife.
Lord.
So it's not about the wife thing, and don't mind about that. But Mshenga is that person who accompanies you. So until today, Timothy is my Mshenga. Yeah, in good things now. But then, actually, he accompanied me to some place, which actually he has been also a good brother. So that's my journey in
okay, let's leave with this story of the 3 idiots and the commander. Now, you're a priest, ordained in 2021.
We are the COVID priest.
A COVID. How has it been, this priesthood?
First, there was all excitement when I was coming through the formation. But something terrible happened in my life. On 13th of April, as we were approaching the end of our years in Tangaza, my dad passed on. And remember, I had invested so much for them because they accepted to join the Catholic Church. And I had a very wonderful parish priest, Father Edward Tajil, who had already organized everything that during my ordination, I'll be able to receive my parents in the Catholic Church through solemnizing their marriage. So it was something that was cooking underground, and I was so excited, and I didn't know when I would say, now you can kiss the bride. I don't know how, I don't know how it would have come out. So I was so much excited. So I don't know how, and we come from a traditional family where you don't discuss some things. So I said, how will I put in that part? So it was so much exciting, thanks to Father Edu, but God took our dad. It was actually 2 weeks before ordination. So my ordination was a very sad moment. I was no longer excited, so I don't even remember most of the things apart from the first song. Nasikia Sauti ya Bwana Inaniita. It was a very nice song, thanks to David and Deacon David currently and Jeffrey. They did a very wonderful, and the brothers in Spirit and House, because they're the ones who sang. Oh, it was a wonderful choir. So for me, my ordination was not an excitement. The excitement was all gone when Dad passed on. The saddest moment was when I was going to the altar, and it was my uncle instead of my dad holding my hand. So there was no that pompous excitement. So for me, I just went, prayed over, ordained, and I moved. So my starting was not the very best. But I was excited to go to mission because remember, we choose mission before all these things happen. So I was so much excited about my mission, which was Malawi. In my options, by then we used to choose countries. So I chose Netherlands, Poland, and Malawi. And by then I was superior. Now currently, the Reverend Bishop John Linda was very also welcoming to us. So when we were to do the appointments, he would call us and then counsel us and say, what is the need of the congregation? So my choice and the choice of my 2 brothers was informed. And on my part, the choice of Netherlands is because we had a confrere in Netherlands. Now Father Urbanus Kioko. In Poland, we had 2 students who were there. That is Duncan O'Neill and Hilary Khayumbi. Yes. And then in Malawi, which is the third option, there were also philosophy students. So our superior then, now Father John, Reverend Bishop Miller, had the idea of diversifying. So he wanted people to move. And part of it, my assignment was actually to go and increase the Kenyan presence in those countries. So I was so excited. And my first choice actually was Malawi. And I felt it. You see how you think of something and you have it. So I thought of Malawi and I had it. And even before anybody else will know where people are going, for me, I started even learning a few things in Chichewa. Yeah, because I was so happy and I felt it. And I think I knew the trick. The trick is you give Rome what they want. So I knew Malawi was the frontier and it needed soldiers like me. So I put it because I knew they are going to give me, and I adopted it in my blood. So Malawi was my first assignment, and I really enjoyed it.
Can you now explain, share with us the experience in Malawi? Because I used to see you, as you call yourself a soldier. You are a true soldier because I used to see you working like just a manual work, a social worker. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe share with us some of these experiences?
Yeah. So all through my formation, I never learned to be taken for granted in terms of manual work. Why? In our family, I was the third born with two elder brothers. So they used to mock me as the weak one. And for me, I worked hard to prove everything wrong. So I really worked hard and I did manual work. And they usually identify the bright one in class is sometimes the weak one in manual work. So for me, I tried to balance the two, and I really think that I did my best. Remember in the postulancy, I told you we did removal of stones. In Njiro, it was all, I used to work in the computer, but also volunteer at the animals. So I really tried that. In the novitiate, oh my. Fish pond, who are the mercenaries with Father Maimbalis there and our group, who are mercenaries, and we used to enjoy that. Going, firewood, all that, it was all awesome. So I've been built the hard way, thanks to also our novice director, who used not to joke with work. You leave the class work at times and go and work. And it was not easy work. I remember my Mbali was in charge of Mahandaki. Now Mahandaki was to enter in the tunnels and unblock them. For me, Matthew, and some guy who are now mostly drainage and all these waterways. Remember, we used to give the waterways. So we were these hardy people. Our group, I really thank our novice director, Father Benedict Kisoi. We used to call him Captain. He was all over anytime. Like a sniper, and he would appear anywhere. He will go to a journey and he will confirm that he has gone to Nairobi. But that evening he will appear from nowhere. Even everywhere, everybody knew in the village that man. Yes. But he will appear from nowhere holding eggs, and they are from Kenya, coming to incubate them there to change the breed. I tell you, that man, may God bless him. So that background was very important for me to begin my mission. So I went to Malawi very excited, exactly 3 months after my ordination. My first assignment before I went was Sultan Hamud, where I did a very nice thing, reading Kamba masses. Remember, now that was our cradle land. So I tried learning a little bit of Kikamba, made a very nice impression there. Then went to Malawi. Something that made me also rush to go to Malawi, on the 2nd, our brothers were being ordained priests, 2nd October. So I arrived in Malawi on 29th of September. I flew, and it was my first long flight. So I flew to Malawi.
First long?
You should note that.
First long?
Yes.
Just here in Malawi?
Yes, very long. Remember, the first one was Kisu. Now, yeah, you should highlight those moments. So our first journey was Malawi. I arrived there. I was received by a very nice friend of mine. I call him a German machine, Father Kasia. He's in Germany now, and it was a green Demio. I remember seeing the car, and he brought me all the way to Deza. Deza is our group house, or we call it the mother house. That's where the superiors reside. So I was received by Father Damien, and we lived there for 2 days, and then we now came. We stayed with Father Kasia to
the mission now.
No, for the ordination in Blantyre. That was Deza. I landed in Lilongwe, came to Deza, now went to Blantyre. So my first days were so good. The language and the celebration mood was so high. Remember my classmates, Father Christopher Ndala, Father Precious Nyorewa, Father Edwin Sipili, or the billionaire, and then Father Nason Mali were being ordained. So it was a big thing for me because these were my first brothers to attend outside. No, I attended ordination in Tanzania, and I remember Father Joseph was also my deacon during the masses, my first deacon, and Father Freddy, Queen of Love. So those moments were so good. So I went to Malawi second, there was ordination. Then I attended their home masses. So I was moving all along. So after the celebrations were over, it was time to work. So I was appointed to Tunga Spiritan Community, which is a Immaculate Conception Parish, so that I learned Chichewa. Good enough, I met a very humble man called Mr. Zilima. Mr. Zilima became my tutor for Chichewa. So I joined the Spiritan community in Tunga. There we were 4 of us. Father John Luani, who is now is in Ethiopia. Father Bartholomew Chanza, who now is the current parish priest in Tunga. And Father Petros, who now is in Mozambique, who was among the ones ordained by that year, and myself 4. So we were 4 priests in the house. And I began my journey in Tunga. Something unfortunate happened. So 1 week after my arrival, we were attacked by thieves. And that was my introduction. So it was a very hard moment for me, because I was in the room that was first. It was this dome. So my room was the first, and then the rest were on this side. They came and I saw people, and they were speaking a language that I was not getting very well, Chichewa. So I was wondering, Ndalama, Funa Ndalama. But then I did not know Ndalama. I knew Ndalama was money. The first thing you should learn, no money. So I learned Ndalama was money. But I did not know how to tell them. I don't know what they said the money had done. But I knew there were this because, of course, I had the breaking into the house. So they terrorized us for 45 minutes. And I didn't have any money, because I've just arrived there. Remember, I'd spent during going for mission, you're usually given 100 by your ascending province. So our bus had given me 100. So the 100 is what I used to move around and give for the brothers during their ordination. And that's how I happened to learn, and I did not have money in the house. But lucky enough, I was given 30,000 Malawi kwacha for my first in the community. It's approximately 3,000 Kenya shillings. How much in dollars? You can divide by 100 to get enough figure. 3,000 Kenya shillings divided by 100, that is $30. So I had $30 as my pocket money. And they took it. I had only spent 2,000 Malawi kwacha, which is equivalent to 200 to buy credit to serve. So they took the 28, and that's how I became poor again, thanks to my vow of poverty. Now, it didn't have much. They tied us, the 4 of us, but lucky enough, the parish priest had called the confreres group and said we are under attack. Then he deleted the message and switched off the phone. Because if the thieves got that he's the one who sent the message, he will be in trouble. So he sent the messages and then deleted them and switched his phone because now people started doing what? Started calling. No, calling. I don't know how people call when you're being attacked. They should be coming instead of calling.
So they
now, then, of course, the nearest was out.